It's been a season of ups and downs for Fort Lauderdale United FC, but tonight in the nation's capital, they hit the road to take on DC Power with a chance to climb in to a postseason spot. Standing in their way, former Fort Lauderdale United, Gianna Gorley. She's on loan with DC Power, and she's made the most of it. 5 goals, 1 assist in her time here in DC. And speaking of former players, how about Jorian Balcom scored the first goal in DC Power club history, but she stands on the other side tonight, hoping to deliver 3 points for Fort Lauderdale. We welcome you to the nation's capital. The push for the postseason continues at Audi Field as Fort Lauderdale United comes in sitting 3 points below the cut line. DC Power hoping to play spoiler again at home tonight. Alongside former member of the United States women's national team, Casey White, I'm Josh Appel. Thanks so much for joining us. And Casey, here's how the standings look as we enter tonight. Carolina earning the Players' Shield. They've clinched home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Tampa Bay still playing for home field, but they have clinched a postseason berth. Then you've got 3 through 6 all jockeying for those final 2 spots.
Incredibly tight in those positions, and this is where 3 points becomes critically important for a team like Fort Lauderdale United.
These 2 teams matched up about a month ago, played to a 1-1 draw in the 3rd meeting between the 2 sides. It was in a rough stretch for Fort Lauderdale.
But as they so often do, they usually dominate in possession, and it was no different in this matchup. But DC would be the first to strike through this goal from none other than Gorley. She is someone who has stepped up so often for DC, but they weren't able to secure that 1-0 lead. Fort Lauderdale United would come back the opposite direction off this ball from Felicia Knox. Hamid puts it away, and it would end in that 1-1 draw.
And since then, Fort Lauderdale, over their last 5, 1 win, 2 losses, and a draw. DC's been one of the more competitive teams in the league, had a 2-game winning streak snapped last week. There's that big number, though, for Fort Lauderdale. 10 goals conceded, 9 of those coming in just 2 games.
Well, that's what's so interesting. With DC not able to make the playoffs, they're still in good form, playing well. But on the flip side, just last game was when Fort Lauderdale United finally got that clean sheet again, and they're looking to carry that into tonight.
And one of the big keys in that clean sheet victory over Lexington last week was Laurel Ansbro. We had a chance to catch up with a Fort Lauderdale center back earlier tonight.
I think the mindset is just to take these last 3 games in stride. We want to have confidence going into this game. We've been on the road for quite a bit, but we picked up 3 crucial points against Lexington, and we're hoping to leave this trip with 6 points. So we just want to gain confidence and momentum going into this final stretch.
And the collective defending last game was a real highlight. As a center back, what do you think is going to be critical tonight on the road versus DC?
I think we want to go for the same thing, which is a shutout. I think that's what every defensive line wants, but our box defending was really good last game against Lexington, and that's how DC scored on us the last game, so we just want to make sure that's at its top performance tonight, and I feel very confident in how this game will go.
Thanks to Laurel Ansbro for joining us before it is a nut line. Dallas hanging on to that final spot. Tonight, the 4th and final meeting between DC Power and Fort Lauderdale. Lineups and kick next.
How does Crystal Geyser Alpine Spring Water keep you in the game? We always source our water directly from the natural spring to fuel every body, no matter how you like to move it. So whether you're chasing your goals or just staying active this summer, make sure to stay hydrated with Crystal Geyser Alpine Spring Water. Always bottled at the natural spring source.
Pain doesn't care who you are or why you hurt, but pain can be mastered if you know the way.
Focus!
Fight back with Tiger Balm's legendary herbal power.
Whatever it takes.
Trusted for over 100 years. Tiger Balm's proven herbal blend tames pain with the strength and speed of the tiger so that you can rise above pain.
Let's make a Karate Kid.
And get back to living. This is the way of the tiger.
Welcome back to the nation's capital tonight. DC Power playing host to Fort Lauderdale United FC. Josh Appel, Casey White with you as we take a look at tonight's starting 11s. First for interim head coach in DC, Phil Nana.
Well, Jeanette Yango is going to be in that single pivot role in midfield. That'll be important because it allows advanced positions from the outside backs of Murnan and Fitch. They're both players who like to get a little bit higher up the field and play in combination with their wingers up top. And then you'll have a Barra in that 9 role. Look for her to operate in that half space in front of the back line of Fort Lauderdale United.
And for Tyrone Mears and Fort Lauderdale, a massive one for them tonight, a huge opportunity at 3 points.
And they most likely will come out in a 3-4-3 or some sort of organization there. They tend to adjust things tactically. Smith and Rajay in the double pivot, very important. That allows and Knox to own right. But what's really interesting about the way that Tyrone Mears sets this team up, Gordon at times is called to be more of a defensive player as well when they're out of possession. So watch for her to drop a little bit deeper in that shape.
Certainly a versatile option for Tyrone Mears. Cassette Morshea in goal, coming off the 1-0 clean sheet over Lexington. Her 6th clean sheet of the season. There is Tyrone Mears. And their 10th win last time out on Friday against Lexington. Felt good about the performance. Feels good about where his team is at after a winless streak that not many saw coming. And there's Phil Nana. Really feels like his team is finally starting to feel their identity.
This is a really interesting matchup because Phil Nana has them believing, has them playing together, but then you've got Tyrone Mears on the other side as well that does a lot of different tactical changes. So I think this will make for a really interesting matchup between these two teams.
Danielle Chesky is our referee. She blows her whistle, and Fort Lauderdale gets us started. Fort Lauderdale in the white, DC in the black. So glad you could be with us tonight from Audi Field. There's Fort Lauderdale, which has weathered the storm through many ups and downs this season. Began the year 3-0-1. Over the next 5 after that in the fall, 0-4-1. Then rattled off 9 consecutive unbeaten until a really brutal stretch here down towards the end of the year, which has put them in a spot where they've got to fight back for a playoff berth. There's Shania Gordon. Over 2,000 minutes played this year. That's 2nd on the team.
And you mentioned Shania Gordon. I think her role has really evolved throughout the year. We know she can score goals. We know she can assist, but Coach Tyrone Mears is asking a lot more of her, starting her in a lower position. She has to defend a little bit more, but still able to really have an impact going forward for this team.
WVU alum, 6 goal contributions on the season. Near the top of the league in shots on goal, 4th most. This ball down the left side, near the end line. Hamid trying to leave it for McNeil. And the last touch was off of McNeil and out for a goal kick for Morgan Aquino. Or Claire Constant, captain for DC. We'll take it.
Plays Aquino, though, so both involved there.
Bad giveaway. Picked up by Felicia Knox. Good recovery for the moment by DC. Okay, so let's see if Fort Lauderdale can get Addie McCain going. She's still alive in the Golden Boot race. Leads the team in minutes, but just 1 goal since February 22nd. And came in that 5-2 loss against Carolina at the end of April.
A really cerebral player, very good in possession, can play both in more of a holding mid or an attacking mid position. But something to watch tonight is her matchup with Jeanette Yango in that midfield space. Yango's gonna have to deal with both McCain and Knox. That might free up McCain a little bit more space to play make than usual.
Yango, the 12-year veteran. Thanks for the Cameroon national team as well. There's Addie McCain. At one point was the Golden Boot leader. Now she's tied for third in the league with 10 goals. DC can't really string together much in the first few minutes. Knox. To the outside it comes for Gordon. Anna Bagley watching her. On the left foot, trying to cross one in. Defended well by DC. Taylor Smith stepped up to keep it alive for Fort Lauderdale, and now they can reset with Brooks.
And this is something we've come to expect in watching Fort Lauderdale United all season. They settle in possession very well. They expect to have very high and advanced positions. Their defenders are expected to build, and we're already seeing that. The longer DC can stay in it without conceding much, they can get more comfortable with those spaces that they're conceding in.
Fort Lauderdale averages around 54% possession in their games this season.
And all the sustained possession just allows Shania Gordon to get on the front line. You'll see 4 players constantly across that back line of DC as they're able to advance.
Tried to fit it through to Gordon, but Bagley got in the way. And now Bagley ends up with it. This DC team has played some really solid ball in the spring. Every game decided by just 1 goal. Looking for Abera, but Brooks got in the way of that, and it's out for a DC throw-in.
Well, the change of point for DC, we just saw it. That's going to be critically important for them. They're more in a 3-5-2 shape. That means the wingbacks are going to become essential to how they get out of pressure. And if they can continue to do that in transition, there's going to be lots of space on that opposite side.
DC is the lowest scoring team in USL Super League, as McCain is whistled for the foul. DC actually came out firing in the spring as Addie McCain just picked up a yellow.
And here's the confrontation right there, getting ahead on it. I'm not even sure that's a foul at that point. I don't think the yellow came from that. I think a little bit of frustration after the foul was called. Yango does get her body in there, but she doesn't challenge for the ball. So normally if both players aren't challenging, that would not be called a foul.
But now McCain playing with a yellow for the rest of the night. Saying about DC, they scored 6 goals in their first 3 games of the spring. Fortunately for them, only resulted in 1 point. And it was against Carolina on the road back at the end of February, but they've scored just 7 over the next 8 matches. They had that big outburst in the second half against Dallas a couple of weeks ago. Loza Abera had a second half brace. Susanna Fitch netted her first of the year. Comes out wide. The header. Way out. Not sure she got a good piece of that. Now, the positive note to that is, despite how the scoring kind of dried up until that Dallas match, they only scored 7 in the fall. So they've got almost double their total here in the spring.
Well, that has to make you feel good. And as a player, you just feel like there's not as much pressure when that's starting to happen. So you're not thinking about every little finishing detail. It becomes almost second nature because you trust that if you get into the right areas that there's going to be great opportunities to score.
And a big reason why that output has increased in the spring, the addition of Gianna Gorley, who is not in the starting 11 tonight, former Fort Lauderdale player who's on loan with DC, but she is available off the bench. Should Phil Nana choose to go with her.
Well, and that's what'll be interesting too. She is more a penetrating run type of player, looking to expose space behind the back line, where Abera will come a little bit more to feet. They can certainly do the other side as well, both of them, but that'll be important.
Hamid trying to catch up to this. Constant, not sure if she got there first. No, it was put out by Hamid, so now a goal kick coming. And Hamid didn't get credit with the goal last week against Lexington, but did send it towards target that ended up in an own goal for Lexington as we take a look at Gianna Gorley. Leads the team in goals and shots. Scored against Fort Lauderdale back in April in that 1-1 draw that we mentioned in the open. That's someone that DC had actually been looking at for a long time. Phil Nana telling us that as a staff they watched her in college and they really felt there was something there. They saw that she had a great work rate, high intensity, and attributes that he said you can't really coach, as Abera. Tried to send one in, but it was deflected out for a throw.
And when we were speaking with him, I found myself nodding my head about those non-negotiables, those intangibles as well that you see in a player that you know, okay, this is something that I can't necessarily coach. It has to be intrinsic, and that's what he talked about most with Gorley. But one of the things that I've really liked about her is just she can finish in so many different ways, like very goal scorer type touches that she is able to do. And
that's one of the things that they needed to do when they brought her in. As Locklear thought she had support behind and just sails over her head. He said when they brought her in, they realized right away, Gianna Gorley, they had to build her confidence back up, build her belief back up, and as you pointed out, they felt like she could be one of the best strikers in the league, and Phil Nana feels like they've reached a really great point with her at this point near the end of the season.
She definitely has a great skill set, and I think if you're Fort Lauderdale United, you're happy right now that she isn't necessarily in the starting lineup, but you've got to be thinking if she comes into this game, we have to defend a little bit differently.
McNeil. Now Knox. McCain, one touch to the outside. Gordon gets there, has Locklear to her left. But a good close in by Bagley on Locklear. Does result in a corner. Much rather try and defend that than leave Locklear all alone in the penalty area.
Exactly, and that was the right decision by Gordon to play that in the one touch. If she takes one extra touch there, now the defender is got their hips around the ball, they're clearing the opposite direction. That one forces them to clear out for the corner kick.
Knox off the corner. Hamid went down, headed into the area. Wolfbauer made some contact with Locklear. The play rolls on. Comes down for Brooks with Abera watching her. And a foul whistled here against Locklear.
But that's part of what Tyrone Mears wants to see from Fort Lauderdale United is just the ability to counter press and get high pressure on the ball higher up the field, especially early on in the game. Yes, they have possession, but when they lose it, what does that look like? And do they go back and get it immediately? Locklear is a big part of that mentality for this group. You're going to give up fouls every now and then, but you hope that that pressure turns into turnovers high up the field.
Forces a throw in here. Vernon able to recover well, though. Fort Lauderdale has had the ball essentially what feels like 10 of the 11 minutes so far, but have not been able to generate much as far as threatening goal scoring opportunities go. Vernon. Trying to find Abera. Abera still applying pressure, but now they reset it with Morshea, who can calmly distribute.
Smart from Ansbro to start that over, and Fort Lauderdale's pressing out of that 4-4-2 diamond, so the center backs essentially have to be the ones to build up for DC. It's a 3 against 2, but with all that pressure, that's what Fort Lauderdale United is wanting. They want them to cough it up in this area so they can restart possession.
Ansbro, so rock solid on that back line this season for Fort Lauderdale. Casey, what's made DC so much more difficult to play against in this spring season?
I think a big part of that is their defensive structure. They've been able to really not only stay organized and compact between the lines, but even when they have had possession, they are able to win things back really quickly. So just a little bit stingier there, I think, is really important for them. And in talking to Phil Nana, too, and we can't see this necessarily just from watching. We can see elements of it, but it's just the belief factor of playing for each other and just coming together a little bit more with that.
Really excited about the future here. disappointed not to have won that third match in a row against Spokane. 2-1 loss. Snap that 2-game winning streak. They've never won 3 in a row. It's Frilez. Fitch gets around the defender and cleared away. Some difficulty with it. Oh, it's kept in. Good hustle by Hamid. And now Wolfbauer has to retreat all the way back.
And I'd like to see DC just keep moving it back and forth anytime they spring that opposite side wide area, which so far has only been twice in this first 13 minutes, but it's looked effective for them going forward if they can find that opposite side space.
McCain. Physical play. Comes out wide. Kurosaki. Fitch. Abera. Abera punched away. It's sitting out there. The clearance attempt. It's all the way out towards the touchline. Abera keeps it in, but gave it away to Hamid. First real threatening moment for either side. DC, great chance. That's a foul. Ajay whistled for it as we take a look at the last chance for DC.
Great underlapping run from Abera. I like that she looks for the initial service. There's not a lot of angle to pick out a player, but she puts the pace on the ball to make them uncomfortable in the back. Morshea does a good job to get a strong hand to it, but this is what you want if you're DC, is just following that up, looking for second chance opportunities.
So it'll be a long free kick. Duong over everyone and out for a goal kick for Morshea.
There were a lot of hands in the air, like they didn't expect it on that one. Maybe just not on the same page with Duong on that type of service. I don't believe she mishits it there. It's just a matter of being on the same page with the runs in that final third.
Duong, top 5 in the league in chances created. Of course, leads the team. Possession has kind of swung in favor of DC for the last few minutes. Frilez, lacrosse. McNeil, like that Smith, got a piece of it. Fitch, trying to lay it ahead for Yango, but they weren't on the same page. And once again, it's a goal kick for Cassette Morshea. Enter the Prinks Tires Tailgate Kit sweepstakes for a chance to win a prize pack worth up to $3,000. Scan the QR code on your screen now and enter today. The win for Fort Lauderdale over Lexington on Friday was their first victory since March 15th. Been nearly a month, a little over a month actually. You see their form over the last 5. Before that match, they had picked up just 6 points in the previous 7 matches. And for a while, it was a team that many thought would just be a lock, that they could coast in to the postseason. But as we know, certainly not the case. They've got to claw their way back and jump pretty much everybody, aside from DC and Lexington, given that they've been eliminated from postseason contention.
Well, I think that's what's so hard about an extended season. That's, you really can see different times where you have different runs of forms. That how does your team react to that? How do they get themselves out of it, or how do they stay in great form? All those questions, are asked and answered throughout a long season. Foul
here will give Fort Lauderdale their first set piece opportunity of the night. Yango does not like it. She also gets a yellow.
Well, Yango is going to be that disruptive player in midfield. Her mobility is very good. She's very strong usually on the tackle. She doesn't get the first one. She goes for that second one and just leaves her feet. Not surprised that this is called, just because right here, just lunging at the very end as Locklear looks like she'll be in behind.
So we'll see if Fort Lauderdale can take advantage of this. Danielle Chesky gives the okay. Ball in towards goal. Punched up into the air. Dangerous one, now flicked overhead. The header, not enough pace on it from Hamid, and it's able to be scooped up by Aquino.
Aquino actually did very well with that, because it looked like initially she might have misjudged it, and Felicia Knox has a great service in those times where she can play the ball into the penalty area.
Mera trying to switch. It was intercepted, and now Fort Lauderdale takes over. Difficult ball to complete from Barrow. Seemed like her momentum was kind of drifting left.
At that point, you might as well recycle the ball. I can see the idea that she had in that moment to try to switch the point of attack, but just hard to do so.
This one laid out ahead for Hamid. Aquino had to be extra aggressive off her line. Hamid went down and is still down. It's just a good play by Aquino, got to the ball first.
She read that very well. If you're going to have a higher line, especially with those back three in transition, when your wing backs haven't gotten there, you have to help manage the space.
McNeil with Friles harassing her. Great job by Carly Friles. Get that to Susanna Fitch, who is starting her 26th game tonight. Leads the team in minutes for DC. The only one to start every single match this season. So we take one more look at that chance off the free kick, or excuse me, this last chance for Hamid. You can see Aquino get to the ball first.
Aquino does very well to time that and does get to the ball before Hamid does, even though it was a tough challenge. What I love about that ball, though, is Addie McCain, just really good pace on it, almost connects there. That's a really hard ball to be able to texture into that space for your on running forward.
Well, we talk about getting Addie McCain going again as far as scoring goals like she had done for the majority of this season, but when we asked Tyrone Mears about how they can get her going, he essentially told us, he said, look, even if she's not scoring, she does so many different things for us that she's still affecting the game regardless.
And Addie McCain is a player I've seen play since her youth days with FC Dallas and then through Texas A&M and then into the professional game. She can play in the 9 role, she can play in the 10 role, she can play in the 6 role. Those all require different skill sets, and she possesses them all. And she did play a little bit higher up the field earlier in the season, has kind of shifted a little further back, but tonight we're seeing her in that diamond midfield at times get onto the front line next to Locklear, which is a higher position for her that might put her in positions to have opportunities on frame.
She considers herself a natural 10. Played the 9 more in the fall.
And that last ball we saw her play, Hamid, is out of that 10 role. When she's facing forward, she can get in the half space. She has the texture on the pass to be able to really dictate the tempo and set players up for success.
Where do you think her best fit is? Is it at the 10?
I love her there. I do. I do think it's her best fit, but I'll be honest, I can also see why you would play her in the 6 role, depending on personnel, because she's so comfortable on the ball and her distribution is a high level as well. But when someone has the amount of goals she has, it's hard to argue with taking her too far away from the goal.
Trying to strike that balance a bit.
It's hard, yeah. But it speaks to what she can do. She can fill a lot of different roles based on the personnel you have around her.
Trying to spring a Barra now, but Brooks able to get there first and play it towards Morshea. Lauderdale able to clean that up. Now Hamid. Tyrone Mears is really looking for more from. Locklear was well offside.
It's a really good play, though. It started with that back pass that was not great to Morshea, and then the comfortability to play out, find Felicia Knox in the half space. Locklear has to go a little more horizontal with her run there.
About halfway through this first half. No team has really threatened with a golden chance. DC has had the better chance of the two.
Well, there was that time period there for about 6-7 minutes where DC was actually being a bit more dangerous than Fort Lauderdale United, getting into the wide spaces and creating 2-against-1s. And so that's something Fort Lauderdale's got to be really aware of, because the longer the game goes on, they'll be looking to create those 2v1s more often.
Hamid. Watched by Frilez. Locklear trying to fit it into Knox, could not. Keeps the pressure alive though. Yango takes away. Usher to the turf. Plague rolls on. Ajay gets it back now. Not on the same page in that instance with Addie McCain. Tied for third in the league still, Addie McCain with her 10 goals. Good touch.
And that's what exactly DC needs to do, is play in that wide area quickly. Shania Gordon and McNeil have to step quickly as outside backs. Otherwise, they're going to be allowed to possess a little bit higher up the field. You can see the hesitation from Gordon to step in that moment.
They go long for Kurosaki, but she can't keep it in play. Yuka Kurosaki. One goal on the season for her. Veteran pro, most recently with Racing Louisville before this season. You look at this DC team on paper and you watch them play a lot, especially over the last 5 games, and you wonder how they ended up in the spot in the table that they're in. There's some real quality in that Dallas comeback. 2 goals by Abera were just phenomenal, and really the 2 for Dallas as well. Allie Thornton scored a banger in that game as well. And it seemed like Dallas, who, we showed you the table earlier, they're in a playoff fight, of course, as well, narrowly hanging on to that final playoff spot. But with a win for them, they could jump all the way up to second. But if Dallas ends up missing the postseason, or they don't have as high of a seed, or they don't have home field, they'll look back at that DC match where they had a 2-0 lead at the half, ended up losing 3-2.
Well, all of this, to your point, speaks to the depth of the league,
Absolutely.
the parity, how coaches and how players adapt to playing teams multiple times, who adapts better. But what I also like is it shows what you can do in performance across an entire season, but also being this tight late in the year also goes, okay, who's going to step up in a really pressure-packed moment? And I think that's what's really exciting about following the Super League, is that now we're at that point where which team is going to be able to handle the pressure down the stretch.
Jasmine Hamid getting a talking to from Danielle Chesky. You mentioned previous matchups. These 2 teams playing tonight for the 4th time this year. Each team has won, each team has lost. They've also drawn. This Phil Nana-led team really feels they can go toe-to-toe with anybody, but especially with Fort Lauderdale. As we pointed out earlier, they scored first on the road. And nearly immediately off a set piece, gave up the equalizer.
Well, he was quick to point that out, that he felt like they withstood Fort Lauderdale's pressure. They got that first goal. He said, we have to be better after scoring goals, and he feels like they've figured that out a little bit more and been able not to, in those first 5 minutes, concede and also just be a little bit tighter. So you can imagine if they do happen to get a goal tonight, that there'll be a huge focus on making sure nothing comes after.
Kurosaki out for Abera. Back for Kurosaki. Nearly a handball on Ansbro. Right place, right time for her, though. And Fort Lauderdale escapes that scare.
And that was a bit scary, to use your word, but after the fact, Laurel Ansbro's ability to build out of the back, she's just so skillful in those areas. And right after that happening and that kind of scary moment, she's still able to show the composure to get Fort Lauderdale out.
Just to put a bow on that conversation about DC and this last match, Phil Nana told us that he's kind of glad they went through that. Feels they learned from it. since then, they haven't conceded immediately after they've scored themselves. And he's seen a material growth in confidence, in ability, and in team togetherness since that match.
Well, and sometimes you have those moments in those matches that serve as a catalyst for those types of areas of growth. And as coaches, you can feel it. You can see that in your team. That isn't always going to show in results. It can sometimes, and it has for DC in moments. But when you see that, you know that there's an encouraging future for them.
Race for it. Locklear wins it. Tried to center it. Good positioning by DC. Murnin, and now cleared away.
I love the mentality there from Locklear. Right away, she crosses the ball, knows it's not going to be anything dangerous, and is immediately sprinting to win the ball back. That's why they're able to reestablish possession here in the final third, and DC isn't able to get out.
Locklear was all over the place against Lexington in her 65, 66 minutes of action that she played. Her work rate, one of her strengths, according to Tyrone Mears. That's something that over this difficult stretch for them, he feels like has been lacking, just to be blunt.
Well, and just the energy piece as well. She definitely brings that for this group. And what you hope as a coaching staff is that that's contagious. You see that player up top doing that, then you've got to go with her. Because if she's doing that alone, there's too many gaps that open up. And then that would be a problem for teams trying to play through. So definitely something that she does and a way that she leads by example when she's out there.
You know, it's interesting to hear the two coaches talk about that 1-1 draw. On one side, Phil Nana's like, yeah, we really felt we should have won that game. We were up 1-0, conceded right away. We weathered the storm. And then Tyrone Mears, this game we should have won. We had the majority of the ball. We missed all of our chances.
Spoken like true head coaches, Josh. I love that. I love that. But, hey, it's all a matter of perspective, right? You value a certain thing that your team did well. You think you could win with it.
Fort Lauderdale gets it started quickly. Gordon, ooh, off the face of Murnin. Because that was to the head. Quickly bring out physios to look at her. Here at the half-hour mark of the first half. No score, Fort Lauderdale and DC. Fort Lauderdale 3 points back of Dallas for that final playoff spot. Hoping to finish off this road trip with 3 points. Picked up 3 against Lexington. So we'll take a look at the up-to-the-minute table. Fort Lauderdale will finish with Dallas, with Spokane. So they will have their opportunities head-to-head against teams that they're chasing, but can't look ahead to that. It all starts tonight.
It does, and it is very nice as a player, as a coach, to say we control our fate at this moment, and to have the games in hand that they do. They know if they take care of business, they'll be in a good spot. But it does start with tonight, and in my opinion, obviously everyone wants 3 points, but even a point for them keeps them going in the right direction, going into games that are against direct competition to what you want, which is that spot in the playoffs.
This is really the last chance for DC to play spoiler. They've got Tampa Bay on the road next week, and then they finish up at Lexington. Tampa Bay, of course, already clinched a playoff spot. Whether that's the 2, 3, or 4 seed still remains to be seen. This is the final home game for DC tonight. They look on and hope that Murnin is okay. And now she's up onto her feet and jogging. So that's a good sign. Claire Constant, the captain for DC, having a conversation. How about Loza Abera? That was a nice move by a teammate right there. Something on the face of Yango. Just pull it right off.
Be that person that's gonna tell your teammate that, right? I
Exactly.
like that. Tell them or do something about it.
Looks like we're ready to get going once again. Murnin will come off for the moment. Can't imagine that felt very good for her.
No, no, that was in close contact for sure.
Will be a corner for Fort Lauderdale.
And I'm not surprised to see Ibarra all the way back defending as well, especially with Mernon having to step out for this corner kick. You just want to make sure that you really stabilize everything here from Knox's service.
Knox delivers in towards the back post. Hamid tried to get ahead on it, but she was marked by two. Marked well. Mernon has made it back onto the pitch, so that's a good sign for DC. Hamid trying to win the race. Jasmine Hamid does. Jasmine Hamid on goal and puts it off the side. An excellent job to beat Wolfbauer and Fitch, but just could not direct that on target.
Well, it's the run off the backside shoulder from Hamid. She gets facing forward. She's going in behind. And this is good decision making. They've been playing short. Now they look to go long. She gets inside of Fitch, takes on Wolfbauer. And this is one of those ones that if you're going to go near post, you have to finish. Otherwise, hit it across frame. You just have more surface area to be able to try to slide this in to the side netting or be in an area for a rebound, but she elects to go near post instead.
Nearly had her 10th of the season as DC tries to build up. Ansbro stepped in front of that pass intended for Kurosaki. Ibarra fighting for it. Kurosaki tees it up. Ansbro with the block, and then it's cleared by Brooks. Things have ratcheted up a bit here.
Well, what's interesting is when Fort Lauderdale United goes a little more directed long, it's effective, but it leaves them exposed for the same thing in the opposite direction. Both teams are recognizing those moments when, hey, this isn't time to have a bit of a chess match or a tactical battle. Let's look to go in transition and see if we can catch the opposition off guard.
Ten minutes to go in this first half. Bagley, Ibarra flicks it forward. Ansbro's clear was blocked. Kurosaki! And she hits the side of the net.
DC is just such an opportunistic team as well. They've settled more into this game. Kurosaki looking to press, picking her moment to go. Fort Lauderdale so comfortable in possession, but they take a little bit too much time there trying to clear it. Kurosaki steps in. Very hard to get your hips around the ball and get that across frame, but she actually does a great job with this, rewarded for her pressure, and just puts it into the side netting.
Yeah, she would have had more Shea beat. An excellent effort. And Kurosaki, we remain 0-0. Knox, back for Hamid. Now McNeil. Towards Addie McCain, who gets ahead on it. The save made by Aquino. What a ball in, and what an effort by McCain to get to a threatening area.
Well, when Addie McCain puts her hands in the air, you know she wants the ball, and McNeil sees this and sees that reaction. She goes and searches it out. What I love about what McCain did, she's on the backside, she reads the flight of the ball well, and then cuts in front for the header.
Turned over. McCain, one touch to the outside, Locklear. Gordon wanted it. Too late on it. Knox. And that fizzles out for Fort Lauderdale. Kurosaki. Freelez. Susanna Fitch. That's intercepted by Ansbro. Comes free in the midfield. Felicia Knox. Locklear in a foot race with Constant, but good job by Constant to kind of shield Locklear off, had the angle.
But Fort Lauderdale finally rewards Shania Gordon in that wide space. So far, DC, for me, has dominated the wide areas. Fort Lauderdale's been a bit more central, but they have the opportunity, Fort Lauderdale, to get Shania Gordon more involved in the 2v1s wide.
Ahead for Abera. Brooks cut her off, and it's out for a throw. Select, the official matchball supplier of the USL Super League and many elite leagues throughout Europe. Visit us.select-sport.com as this comes towards goal and out for a corner. You can visit us.select-sport.com for the latest Select products, specials, and more. Select, the player's choice. Second corner of the match for DC. Duong will line it up. There'll be an in-swinger from DC's leader, and chances created. Towards the back post. Over everybody. Wolfbauer tracks it down. Puts it back in. Takes a deflection off of Fort Lauderdale, and another corner coming for DC.
Well, something to be careful of is Wolfbauer's just hanging out a bit at the edge of the 6-yard box and no one really with her. If she times her run a little bit better on that last service, she could be running towards frame, which could create more of a problem.
So Duong will switch sides now. Here it comes. And before any DC player can make a play on it, there's a whistle for a foul, and it's going Fort Lauderdale's way. Danielle Chesky. DC does an excellent job there forcing the giveaway.
Well, and that's your hope right there. You may not win it on the first or second wave of pressure, but that third or fourth is where you want to turn them over. One of the things Phil Nana talked about was wanting to possess higher up the field, and the way you press can certainly help establish that.
Mernon. Maddie McCain was a bit slow to get up, but she's on her feet. Frilez. Fitch. Moved off the ball well. But DC is back on it. Abera for Yango. Yango thought about it. What a ball, flicked. Yango heads it back. Went down on her own. And play continues here for Fort Lauderdale. McCain decides to reset in the 42nd minute.
Well, and just right there, looking to go direct again. I do think that is an area of the field that they can take advantage of. Fort Lauderdale. Hamid has had some success getting in behind the back line, especially in transition when Fitch is a little bit higher and has been a part of the attack. So that's not the right moment for it. They were dropped off and facing, but I expect to see a little bit more of that in the second half.
Off the deflection, Locklear. For McCain, just couldn't get that one cleanly to her. Now Gordon, Shania Gordon. Had to go from distance. Knox, McCain. Couldn't connect on that final pass. Either of these two teams break out and and break through before the end of the half. Morshea well off her line to send that one in the air. Hansbrough tried to keep it alive, but it was taken away. Duong wide for Fitch. Abera turns back. Shot was deflected and comes all the way towards the near side. Kept in by Mernon. Bagley for Duong. Yango turns with it.
Much better, though, from DC, sustained possession. They're looking to probe in those outside spaces, and a lot of that's because of the inverted play of Frilez and Kurosaki. It's allowing Bagley and Fitch to get high.
Wolfbauer for Fitch again. The hesitation, low. Kurosaki trying to get there. Hansbrough was there first. There's a player down for DC. Taken away by Fitch. Abera. That was Wolfbauer. Now she's back on her feet. Abera. Fitch. Back post. Nobody home for DC. Race for it towards the byline. Mernon again. Duong finds Frilez. Playing through Susanna Fitch, and it's working. Comes all the way across. Bagley couldn't put it towards goal. That was a great ball again from Fitch. Towards goal, punched out, rebound, Abera! Loza Abera puts DC in front near the end of the first half.
And you could kind of feel this coming, that sustained possession, just continuing to recycle play. Rest defense was good. They would win it back. Finding Frilez just plays this across with a lot of power. The organization from Abera right there to be in front and sniff that out. Extremely good from DC Power, but it's the power here. Morshea cannot do much with it, and that is a hard one to finish because it's bouncing up when Abera has to make contact. When it's coming down, it's easier to hit, but give her credit. She gets over it and just puts it on frame.
Fourth of the season for Abera. 3 of them have come in the last 3 games. And the brace against Dallas. Now tonight, she puts DC ahead as they try and play spoiler in their final regular season home game.
And that's a goal scorer's goal right there. You're just probing, you're looking what's happening, you're getting in and out of spaces. She's been a connector in this first half, and she's done a good job of that, but you're waiting for that moment where it's gonna come down and bounce to you. You have to be optimistic, have yourself ready and saying, this is gonna come to me at some point.
Three minutes of added time. DC looking for more before the half. That is a huge momentum swinging goal in this matchup.
It is, Josh, and there's been portions of this first half where you felt that DC was getting more back into it, and you didn't know if they would really reward it with that attacking play in the final third. That was their best spell of possession. That was also coupled with dangerous opportunities, dangerous services across frame.
DC has certainly taken over here near the end of the half. Frilez keeps it in. Service comes through. Morshea has some trouble. Yango gets there. Fort Lauderdale just hoping for that whistle. They just want to get to the room right now.
They really are, and it's the wide spaces. Again, they haven't quite figured out how to release their outside backs to get pressure to Fitch, to get pressure to Bagley, and that's happening because there's so many runs in front of them that are inverted. It's hard to know when to step.
Yango gets it back from Bagley, cut off by Gordon, and out for a goal kick as we await the whistle for halftime from Danielle Chesky. Knox nearly sprung something, but DC just flicks it all the way down towards Morche. Ansbro does a nice job shielding off Abera. We're approaching our 4th minute of stoppage time, and there is the whistle for halftime. But what a turn in this one. Loza Abera with her 4th of the season in the 45th minute has DC ahead 1-0 at the half, trying to spoil the fun for Fort Lauderdale.
Well, definitely credit DC with hanging in there in the beginning, the first 10 minutes or so, and they really were able to start to grow into this game. Obviously, it's great for them that they got that finish there at the end. For Fort Lauderdale, it's just the speed of play I think they can take more advantage of.
So remember, in the last matchup, it was DC who scored first. Fort Lauderdale answered right back, and now they'll try and protect this 1-0 lead as we head into the second half. And now we're joined by Susanna Fitch of DC Power. Susanna, that end of the first half, how massive was it for you guys to get on the scoreboard first, take that lead into halftime?
Yeah, I think it's massive. We did a really good job of getting control of the game. We slowed it down and we were moving the ball a lot better in our final third, and that's what created all the chances. We were putting in a lot more crosses, and Loza put away a good goal, so it's good.
And you guys were really effective in those wide areas in your attack. What can you say just about the way you guys have partnered up in those spaces on the field?
Yeah, we've just built the connections. You can see throughout the spring that we've grown a lot, and we know where we're supposed to be, and we find those passes, and we're able to combine behind them, so it was good.
Susanna, thanks for your time. Excellent job in the first half. Good luck in the second. Work the rest of the way.
Thank you so much.
That's Susanna Fitch of DC Power, heavily involved in the first half. Loza Abera, the only goal of the half. It came right near the end, and it has DC up on the playoff-pushing Fort Lauderdale United. Back with more from Audi Field in DC after this.
Success doesn't come easy. It takes grit, hustle, and relentless effort. Every step forward brings you closer to greatness. This is your moment. Elevate your game. El Jimador Spiked Bebidas.
Launches this ball and finds the defending efforts.
Caitlin Clark, amazing at assists. Gamebridge, the ultimate assist for your savings. But ever since they teamed up, she's taken assisting to a whole new level. Caitlin Clark, great at assists. Gainbridge, graded assists for your savings.
Wait, come back! Wait, come back, I need more help.
Take a loan off Annie. Take a loan for free.
Today we went to the beach, and it was totally worth it. Stay 3 nights this summer at Best Western and get $50 off a future stay.
We all have goals. But let's be honest, most of us aren't going to be professional athletes. But if your goal is to finish your degree, we can help. Come to a university that puts your goals first. Bellevue University, your partner in finishing goals.
Welcome back to Audi Field in D.C. 1-0 to D.C. Power over Fort Lauderdale at the half. The goal in the 45th minute by Loza Abera. Josh Appel, Casey White with you as we take a look at news and notes from around Super League. Carolina Ascent, pushing the inaugural USL Super League Players' Shield last weekend. Best record in the regular season. They drew against Tampa Bay, and that allowed Tampa Bay to clinch a playoff spot of their own. Now they're still playing to clinch the 2 seed. They are guaranteed a playoff spot, but whether or not it'll be home field advantage still remains to be seen. And how about Casey? A couple of the youngsters performing and getting a huge honor.
Well, it's certainly an exciting time for teams, but you always love seeing the individual success of Celie Strawn and Emma Johnson named to the US U20 national team roster. Love seeing that from the players within the league.
Now, let's take a look at this weekend's schedule. On Saturday, 3 matches. Brooklyn, Carolina, 2 Eastern, Fort Lauderdale and Dallas in a massive one at 7:30. And then these same DC Power FC will take on Tampa Bay at 7:30 Eastern. But that one right there in the middle, Fort Lauderdale, Dallas, huge one for both teams.
It really is going to be a big matchup. You want your fate in your hands. That's exactly what that is right there. And you mentioned the first one, Brooklyn versus Carolina Ascent as well. You got to think Brooklyn needs 3 points out of that.
Only so many playoff spots to remain. We've got 4 teams fighting over them. 1-0 to DC at the half. We'll have highlights and stats next. Welcome back to Audi Field in DC as we take a look at our first half highlights. 1-0 at the break. This is one of the better chances for Fort Lauderdale. They've been trying to spring Jasmine Hamid with these balls over the top.
Hamid's been off that left side, and she's looked like a threat. Good first touch to bring this down. Doesn't go across frame to test Aquino, and that possibly was a missed opportunity for them. But then the opposite way, Kurosaki would put some pressure on the back line, just stepping up from her midfield position, blocking the initial clearance from Laurel Ansbro, and goes for the near post.
It's interesting, both teams in separate sequences at back-to-back, putting one off the side of the net. This one, though, this one found the back of the net, the only tally in the first half.
And it's for Les in that wide area. The partnership with Fitch has gone really well for DC in that space, but it is Abera that gets the goal. Morshea has to get that a little further out. It bounces down right in front. The player marking is not what it should be, and Abera puts it away.
Third in the last 4 games, make it third in the last 3 games for Abera as we take a look at our first half stats. Possession 50-50, shots about even. Both teams just 1 shot on target. But the only one that matters, the only stat line, 1-0 to DC at the half.
Well, Josh, that really is how it felt. I'm not surprised to see that it's so even across the board. There was an ebb and flow. DC does have that edge with 6 shots, but both teams could be better with getting their shots on target a little bit more often, and that could be the difference here in the second half.
We'll be back for second half kick in moments from DC. Can Fort Lauderdale mount the comeback, or will DC play spoiler once again? Welcome back to Audi Field in Washington, D.C. It's DC Power 1 and Fort Lauderdale United 0 at the half. Alongside former United States Women's National Team member Casey White, I'm Josh Appel. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. Casey, Fort Lauderdale in desperate need of at least 1 point tonight. They'd love to get 3 against a team already eliminated from postseason contention, but they find themselves down 1-0 at the half. What can they do here in the second to climb back?
I think it's all about urgency. Urgency in everything you do, how you press, but more importantly, how you move the ball, the speed of play. The possession is great, but they have to move the ball quickly. That shifts the defensive unit of DC or whatever opposition you have. And the danger with the way DC sets up, they could go into more of a 5-back, and then now speed of play becomes even more important.
See how, if any, Fort Lauderdale makes any adjustments in this second half. There are a couple of substitutions for DC. Phil Nana will bring on Emily Colton for Carly Frilez, and Myra Conte will enter for Madison Wolfbauer. Frilez exits after firing the shot on goal that resulted in a Loza Abera in the 45th minute. But Emily Colton comes on for the 11th time. Just joined in the spring, kicking off her pro career. She's a fellow UNC Tar Heel, Casey White.
You took the words right out of my mouth. She's a natural center midfielder. She'll play inverted in that area and will establish that partnership with Fitch to allow her in the white space.
McNeil. That's a foul coming here against Fort Lauderdale, as Conte just came into the match and is already down, and a yellow comes out for Locklear.
An early service by McNeil puts it right into the area, flicked on, just coming in late. Conte does a good job of clearing that ball initially, but the late challenge from Locklear gives her the yellow.
Conte looks to be all right. She's up on a knee now.
Well, those challenges are incredibly difficult because her eyes are on the ball the entire time. There's no way you can really brace for any kind of impact in that moment. So you're really blindsided when that type of challenge comes across from the backside shoulder.
It's one way to get yourself settled into a match. You're barely out there for 30 seconds.
Yeah, she's there now. She's in.
Welcome.
She's in.
There's Locklear, who picked up the yellow. It's a big half for Fort Lauderdale. Down a goal, away from home. 2 matches left after tonight, both against teams they're chasing in the playoff standings. And even if they don't get 3 tonight after falling down, just getting the draw would at least put them in a decent spot for the final 2.
Well, and I think some things that you can talk to your team about at halftime that really go hand in hand is, yes, you have to talk about the results at this point in the season, but honestly, you want to talk about performance, because performance can potentially put you in a position to get a result. So talking about what did we do in the first half that was effective, you know, slip balls in behind, getting into the wide spaces, and then what can we do better? That sense of urgency piece and moving the ball quickly, pressing quickly is something that can change their performance to try to get back in the game.
McCain would love to get her on the score sheet. Knox, not sure she remembered where the ball was, couldn't locate it, and then she commits the foul. Yango went down. Sails over Fitch, deflected off of her for a Fort Lauderdale throw. Final home match of the season for DC. They'll finish on the road. So they're hoping to send their home fans home happy.
Well, and that's definitely something that can be talked about at halftime for them as well. Last home game, how do we learn to win at home, protect our area? They've gotten the goal that they needed. How do we approach the second half and make it really difficult to play here? And that's something that they can continue to build throughout this game.
Miss hit by Mernon, and out for a throw for Jasmine Hamid in Fort Lauderdale. Duong.
Well, one of the things we saw later in the first half was Addie McCain did go more into the 9. Locklear was up there until the middle of the first half, and she switched out to the right. Addie McCain's still up there now. I don't mind that switch, but I really would like to see them get Addie McCain more on the ball, whether that means she's more in a 10 role. So they definitely have players that they can bring into the game, potentially like a Balcom that can come into the game and be able to play there to allow Addie McCain to have a deeper positioning.
So Yango made some contact with Locklear up in the face. You mentioned it, Fort Lauderdale, they've switched into a 4-2-3-1 with Addie up top. Hoping to spark some offense and find that equalizing goal. Tyrone Mears making that adjustment early here in the second half.
Which that allows them to defend those wide areas a little bit better, but then they do lose their number advantage unless Addie McCain drops down into midfield. They lose that centrally. So it may allow them to get Shania Gordon a little bit higher, playing in combination with Locklear, and it does get McCain closer to goal. But there's a kind of a give and take with that when you make those changes.
Comes down for McNeil. Overran it for a moment, but able to re-corral it. She got a second chance at the throw-in, too. Looking for McCain. Tried to flick it towards Hamid. Fitch shielding Hamid off. Gives it away to McNeil. Excellent work. Colton able to work it free. And in tight quarters, DC finally gets a clear. Colton. Yango. Taken away. Raji. Good ball. Hamid. Puts it back across. Cleared off the line. Kurosaki. Nutmeg on Yango.
And this is where I'd like to see the speed of play from Fort Lauderdale. It's hard because you want to be composed, but you want to move it quickly. Otherwise, DC can just settle in their defensive shape and not have to shift very much. But dribble, penetrate, move the ball, and go forward.
Kurosaki dispossesses Ansbro, finds Abera. Abera couldn't settle it down. And Brooks able to recover it.
And that's better from Gordon there. You can clearly see the 4-2-3-1, and that ball gets played wide. They have to step higher.
And they force the turnover. Hamid has Locklear, and Locklear just couldn't get to it. And it's out for a goal kick. That looked like something threatening was brewing, but they couldn't make that connection in the final third.
It's just those tiny details. It's just a little bit too late. And that's the hardest part of the game, is that attacking final third. Goal scoring is incredibly difficult, but it's that efficiency piece there. Just playing it a little bit too late was Hamid, but better off the press from them and forcing turnovers from DC higher up.
Imagine they're going to be extra aggressive, as you see there from Addie McCain.
And McNeil's stepping as well as the outside back. Now she's dropped off, but I think they can do that. They can afford to step up and put DC under pressure.
Abera, the goal scorer. Flicked forward for Fitch. Susanna Fitch. McNeil cuts her off, but it is out for a corner. First of the second half. It is imperative for Fort Lauderdale that they keep this at a 1-0 deficit. Duong will take the corner. She normally does. Here it comes. It's low. Kurosaki with the left foot. Never got all the way through. Flicked back towards the back post. And Duong had too much on it. It's a goal kick.
And that looked like a player that was caught between two minds. Do I crack this myself on frame, or do I float it to the back post? It was somewhere in between there. But you can see from DC that they're looking to really create in the final third. Kurosaki hitting that on the one time. Her being able, Duong, to just cross it again. They look very comfortable when they're in those moments around goal.
They're the lowest scoring team in USL Super League, but with the goal tonight, they've officially doubled their total in the spring from the fall. So progress, of course, in that area. No foul, Locklear frustrated. Knox tried to work it free. Duong has space. Mernon. Colton moves it ahead for Abera, but Brooks stepped in front of it. Fortunately, Hamid couldn't handle that pass. It's out for a throw to DC.
Colton almost got too excited. She could see the space there, rushed it a little bit too much, but that's that inverted play that we saw from Feliz in the first half. Now it's Emily Colton staying in that gap where breaking a line is really effective, because Fitch is occupying this wide channel and Fort Lauderdale hasn't adapted to those two different spaces.
Hamid, see, Danielle Chesky saying that Hamid's stomach took a bit of a hit there. She's okay though now. Foul given. That goes against Colton, and Fort Lauderdale gets it started immediately.
There's much more urgency and intentionality right now, just in the way that Fort Lauderdale was passing that ball around the back. You can see that piece just by watching how quickly that they're passing the balls in those moments. That's important because it makes DC chase.
McCain gets it through. Fitch centers it. Top of the 18. Knox just mishit it and put it wide.
A good technical piece by McCain, plays it in. Felicia Knox, not a bad first touch, doesn't get it down right on that right foot, which is I think what she would have preferred, but still a decent first touch to set her up for success in that moment. I like that we're seeing players above Addie McCain. Felicia Knox joining, Locklear from the opposite side as well.
Gordon for Locklear. Duong off the takeaway. Yango. Kurosaki, who's been strong tonight. Colton, the second half sub. Fitch, the Iron Woman for this DC team.
It's impressive that Fitch has been able to play that many minutes, but then you take into consideration the position she plays in that wing back. You have so much responsibility on both sides of the ball, and the amount of ground you have to cover, the engine it takes, really difficult, and she's just really performed well this year.
Fitch, correction, that's Bagley. She went down, put over the touchline by Fort Lauderdale. Every Wednesday, you can listen to USL Super League Game Week, a deep dive into all things Super League with hosts Marion Crowder and Anna Whitty. Follow along all season long on the SiriusXM app. Lauderdale in search of that equalizer, approaching the 1 hour mark. McNeil taking off her foot, out for a throw. Knox, as she's going down, nearly at the game level. Constant gets it started again as DC tries to protect this 1-0 lead.
Well done by Duong right there. That is a tough moment to play her the ball, and she has such great vision to spring Constant.
Her back to the field of play.
With two players
goal.
pressuring,
Yep.
exactly. I mean, that was very difficult to deal with from Aquino, but she does incredibly well. Perhaps Aquino knows something we didn't know, that she can handle that. She sees it every day in training. So I like the bravery there, but a little bit nerve-wracking.
Goal by Abera in the 45th minute. Tries to put it into the mixer and does. Kurosaki back on it. Now Fitch. We haven't seen Gianna Gorley yet. She's available off the bench. Leading scorer for DC, former member of Fort Lauderdale. Gotta wonder if she'll make her presence known at some point tonight. McCain tried to wait on it. Mernon stepped up. Duong tried to create something, but Fort Lauderdale stayed calm and got possession back. I believe the flag was up there for offside. Duong.
And out of this 4-2-3-1, Fort Lauderdale has definitely looked a little bit more stable defensively, but they're not controlling play in midfield. It's giving more space to Kurosaki, to Yango, to Duong to be able to control play. So you take one thing, but you kind of give up the possession they had earlier in the game.
Colton has all kinds of room. Now Fitch cuts to her left. Susanna Fitch dragging to her left. Top of the box, sent high by Duong. And now, right on cue, we talk about Gianna Gorley, and she will enter the match now for the goal scorer, Loza Abera. And Gorley has been phenomenal since coming over to DC.
A true goal scorer, Gorley. She gets in the box very well. She can strike from distance. She runs in behind the line. This is going to provide something a little bit different to the DC Power attack. And that's one of my favorite goals of the year. That's just understanding where the goalkeeper is and just putting it in the direction of the goal. And all you have to do in those moments is just beat the keeper. But man, it's easier said than done. And it's pretty impressive what she can do in those moments.
We talked earlier about having to rebuild her confidence coming into DC after being loaned out by Fort Lauderdale, and you see how she's performed for Phil Nana, and you got to wonder from Tyrone Mears' perspective if they're thinking, if we had just hung on a little bit, we'd have that production for us. Gorley with it against her former team. She scored against them about a month ago in April in the 1-1 draw. Fitch puts on the brakes. Couldn't get it past Rajay. Knox has had a couple of shot attempts in this half.
Yeah, she's found herself in some more advanced positions, but almost has seemed like, should I shoot? Should I go to goal for that? But I like that she's having that chance creation, getting a little bit higher. That's what you need from someone playing in that 10 role.
Ill-advised pass taken away by DC. Duong resets it all the way back to Aquino. Can DC hang on like this for the next 27 minutes, 26 minutes?
you know, it's really interesting. It's not like they're just sitting back and asking Fort Lauderdale United to come to them. They've been really smart in their decision making on when to go forward and try to get the second goal and when to realize, hey, it's not on, let's keep it and be smart. So I do think they can see it out the way that they are currently playing.
Taylor Smith is going to come out. Fort Lauderdale making 2 substitutions. Knox out as well. Delaney Lindahl comes in for her. For Kamani. Played in her 8th game of the season. Last time out against Lexington. She comes on for another appearance off the bench tonight, hoping to provide a spark and get Fort Lauderdale level.
And this is honestly what I was thinking Fort Lauderdale United needed to do was put Addie McCain into that 10 role. She needs to be on the ball more. There's a temptation to put her in the box as a 9 when you get crosses because she has that touch, but she can join from the 10 role in the same way. So now they've got Shania Gordon a lot higher and move Locklear back centrally.
Play back towards Morshea. Gordon runs into 2 DC players, and there's a whistle for a foul. And Yango is still down.
And this was the last confrontation right there, just going into the challenge. Shania Gordon is the one that goes down in that moment, but just a lot of pressure. The initial challenge was from Conte in that area, then DeWong is the one that looks to be called for the foul.
So earlier, Casey, we talked about Jasmine Hamid and the impact that she could maybe have on this match. They've tried to go to her over the top a couple times tonight.
Yeah, I think that's a way for Fort Lauderdale United to get back into this game. When they've done that and they've put her in over the top, she's been able to time her run really well. Her initial first touches have been good. Although the finishing touch hasn't quite turned into what they want, that's an area of the field just in the way that DC is set up. Because they're in the 3-back, if they can play these balls in, that one was from Addie McCain, and Aquino does well with it, but if they can play those balls in before the wingbacks can transition back, she might find herself in some really good spaces to go forward. And now, with the change to the other side of Shania Gordon going up top and not playing in the outside back, they could do that off the right side as well in transition moments.
She certainly had the best chance of the night for Fort Lauderdale, the one she put off the side of the net.
She did.
Recreate some of that magic here in the final 20-plus minutes. Desperate need of a result and a goal.
And I think we can see more of that with Addison McCain playing a little bit more in that attacking midfield role now, getting her on the ball, looking to play left, play right, and really dictate things through the middle. And Lindahl coming in at right back as well. I expect to see her joining the attack with Shania Gordon higher.
Go long towards the right side. It's Gordon. Rajay. Not on the same page there. Kamani. McNeil now. For Kamani. Just in off the bench. Good ball for McNeil. McNeil across. Nobody home for Fort Lauderdale, at least to where that ball was delivered. She had options though.
Well, it was much better play because Hamid actually checks to the ball and then McNeil plays the run behind. It's a good decision to spring McNeil instead of Hamid. Just almost runs out of an idea here and just goes for power. That needs to be on the ground and someone sliding in. That could be a potential goal.
Hamid had 3 close in on her. Brooks, the long throw. McCain gets it down. McNeil fires right on goal. And the save made by Aquino.
Well, I love this from Addison McCain. She gets in a more advanced position, gets her back to goal. She's always a good target player, and look at that. That is a technical touch right there off the chest to McNeil, and it's right here. She spins and goes. She knows McNeil's coming on, not being tracked. A good opportunity on frame.
Aquino aggressive again. Still 1-0 to DC on the goal by Abera in the 45th minute. You can stay up to date with the USL Super League. Sign up for the Super newsletter. Get news about your favorite team and stories from around the league delivered directly to your inbox weekly. Sign up at uslsuperleague.com/newsletter. Whistle here and a foul on Kamani. Fort Lauderdale entered tonight 3 points below the cut line for the postseason. Finally snapped a winless drought with a 1-0 win over Lexington on Friday. But they scored on an own goal. That's Kurosaki for Gorley. Gorley hits the side netting. Nearly put her new team up by 2 against her old team.
Well, she excited some fans with that shot. I think a few of them might have thought it went in, but this is great play. Kurosaki plays Gorley in. That first touch lets her down a little bit. That's got to go on the diagonal towards goal, but she does her best to try to redirect it.
So again, here is that playoff race up to the minute. 4 teams jockeying for those final 2 spots. Fort Lauderdale will finish the season with Spokane and with Dallas. The match with Dallas is on Saturday. These are massive points available for Fort Lauderdale. Fitch has space. Susanna Fitch to her right. Fitch goes down hard as the shot goes over the end line. She wants a corner, and she won't get one. Think there was enough for a foul in the penalty area there? It was really close.
I don't think so, but I do agree. I thought that was a corner kick. Just the way the ball bounced off of her as she's crossing it and McNeil is recovering. So not surprised with that. It was a bit of a hard challenge, I'll give it to you, but I don't know if it's enough for a penalty.
I mean, when you're down 1-0, it's a risky challenge to make.
It really is. And hey, I was an attacking player, so you'd normally think I'd say that's that's a penalty kick all day, but I don't know about that one.
Hamid as Aquino comes out in front of her. McCain ends up with it on her foot. Ajay gives it back to her. McCain. Kamani supports. Now it's Gordon. Tried to turn inside. Dispossessed. And Duong. She lost it. Kamani.
It's good counter-pressing from Kamani, though. She's brought some energy into this game, stepping, winning balls, keeping them locked in.
It's all the way down towards goal. And I think Locklear was trying to draw a penalty and
Definitely
unsuccessful.
attempting to, but Claire Constant didn't do anything in that moment, was just shielding, making sure that one went right into Aquino.
McNeil.
And this is where Morshea can get more involved in the build-up against the two front runners. They need that extra player to be able to really change the point of attack because DC settling back in that 4-4-2, not easy to chase. That's what you want to see from Fort Lauderdale, but obviously in the midfield, you can't have those turnovers.
Colton intercepts. Kamani stepped up, comes wide Bagley. Duong. 15 minutes to go here in DC. McNeil, she heads it away for Fort Lauderdale. That's out for a DC power throw. But first, substitutions for Fort Lauderdale. Jasmine Hamid will come off in the 75th minute. Cheyenne Allen will enter. And it's the former DC power, Jorian Balcom, who enters for Kiara Locklear. What do you make of these two changes?
Well, I think for Balcom, she is going to work very hard up top. She is like Locklear in that way. She's going to cause problems. She's going to look to run in behind. She's a presence back to goal as well. She can really hold up play for Fort Lauderdale. So you'd look for Addie McCain to play off of her and underneath her to be able to try to spring chances in that area. And for Allen, it'll remain to be seen if it's a like-for-like swap with Hamid, if she'll be up top, or if Sabrina McNeil will push a little bit higher.
Fitch as DC tries to add on to their lead. Back post, it's there! The header just goes wide. Bagley nearly matched the number on her jersey.
And Fitch has been involved all day, doesn't allow anyone to come tackle her in that moment, finds Bagley in the area, doesn't direct it on frame, but again, Fitch just finds that half yard of space. You give her a little bit, she's gonna find a way to get that service in. And I did think this would be a corner kick. It looked like it went off Laurel Ansbro as she got in the way as Bagley was trying to pick out that far post.
Duong gives the ready. Low. Colton never got a good touch on it. Rosaki, ambitious, but into the tunnel.
She hasn't seen a shot tonight that she didn't like, but I like that mentality.
Yeah,
she is in and around goal. She's playing in that 10 position. She's higher up the field. I like seeing the confidence from her to be able to be a difference maker in those moments. They're not all going to get on frame, but you want your attacking players to feel like that.
You can stay informed about all things Super League. Visit USLSuperLeague.com for all the latest information, analysis, and insight into the league.
And with those substitutions, it is McNeil that's in the higher position, taking that left wing position with Allen going more into the left back. So that is a change for Tyrone Mears' side, is getting McNeil higher up.
Long free kick for DC. Start to wonder when we're going to see some of that desperation from Fort Lauderdale, because the last few minutes, you would think that DC is the team with the pressure on to try and level the score, but they've had the better opportunities over the last 8-10 minutes.
I think that's what's interesting about what DC is doing is you could go into a shell and be defensive, but they don't need to, and they're deciding to continue to play, and I think that's making it harder on Fort Lauderdale because they are committing numbers forward. They're not just sitting back and saying, come at us. They believe that they can continue to create chances, and you're seeing that. So for Fort Lauderdale, I'd love to see their outside backs get in a more advanced position. If you give up a goal the opposite way in the last 10 minutes because you're pushing, it's not going to matter.
Right. What's the difference between 1-0 and 2-0?
So you might as well, exactly. You might as well get higher up the field, let Ansbro and Brooks deal with it in the back on any counterattack.
Duong finds Bagley, who had a great chance moments ago. Gorley comes out for Fort Lauderdale. Cheyenne Allen. She's on it. McCain. Rajay misstepped at first. Risky there from Conte. But she was able to get to the spot and force the throw. And off the throw, Constant, captain versus captain. And it's Claire Constant who wins that battle.
And it doesn't come off there in that moment, but everything starts from Cheyenne Allen on the left side as the outside back, looking to break a line, looking to beat her initial pressure. When that happens, you pull out your opposition out of their defensive shape, and that's why they're able to change the point of attack. More of that for Fort Lauderdale can make it a little bit harder on DC.
Approaching the final 10 minutes here in the nation's capital. Could be a massive 10 minutes for Fort Lauderdale's playoff push. They would remain 3 points below the cut line and playing the two of the teams they're chasing, but they would give themselves much more margin for error if they can come up with some kind of result tonight.
Not only margin for error, Josh, I think that's a great point, but also just the confidence of how you're playing, that you can come back from being a goal down and be able to equalize. That piece of how you feel going into those games can be really important as well.
Some fresh legs coming on for Phil Nana. Charlie Escort will come on for her 17th appearance. She'll replace Yuka Kurosaki, who was very strong tonight. Very aggressive in her play. Some fresh legs as DC try and hang on these final 10 minutes. But Casey, you think back to some of the issues that Fort Lauderdale has had finishing their chances. Again, it was an own goal for them against Lexington. They've been shut out through 80 minutes tonight. And prior to that, 1 goal or less in 4 of their last 5. The game that they did score twice, they lost 5-2. So the goals have been really hard to come by for them as of late during this run here down the stretch.
Well, the finishing efficiency is certainly something that they knew had to be better in this game, and that's something that's really escaped them. But I'd even just say not just the goals, but if you rewind back to saying you got to get them on frame as well. 1 out of 5 in the first half were on frame, and so when you're doing that, you're creating chances, but you're not upping your percentage of being able to turn that into goals, and that's really difficult.
Still plenty of time. Not been able to create much. Level! A seemingly innocuous ball that DC had the inside track on, but McNeil, sheer effort, nets her first of the season and maybe the biggest of the season for Fort Lauderdale.
This is absolutely huge for Fort Lauderdale United. The direct ball from Morshea just turns the backs of the defenders, misplayed from Mernon, and McNeil is right there. The shift was made from putting McNeil from left back up to left wing, and she steps up. That is not an easy finish. You're holding off a defender, but sometimes you just got to go direct and long and see if you can make the opposition uncomfortable, and that's what they do.
Just like that. What a time for McNeil's first of the season. And again, Casey, it looked like the ball from Morshea had too much on it. Mernon looked like she was going to easily track it down and play it over to Aquino. And I'm not sure if Mernon didn't realize that McNeil was hot from behind, but it cost her.
Yeah, it did. It's a mistake there from Mernon because she will say it, everyone will say it, you've got to clean that up early. You can't let it bounce multiple times because if you do hesitate, that's exactly what can happen because you are facing your own goal. So sometimes you can be paralyzed of what to do. But we saw this in the first half. There were 2 opportunities for Hamid with balls in behind the back line that they weren't able to convert on. This time, another direct ball, turning the backs of DC Power. When you're not necessarily generating chances within the run of play, sometimes that's exactly what you need.
And now there's still plenty of time to get the go-ahead.
Well, now's what's really interesting as a staff. Do you use the momentum to go for the 3 points? Because you certainly don't want to give up something now the other direction. So it really just depends on knowing your team. How do they best respond?
Aquino. Fort Lauderdale made another substitution. Tati Fung entered for Daria Rajay. So they're out of substitutions. They've made their 5.
Well, what's really interesting about that substitution as well, Josh, is Tati Fung goes to more in that 10 role, attacking mid, and Addison McCain drops even a little bit deeper into a 6-8 role, into that holding mid. So we were talking about it earlier. She plays the role that is needed in any given moment for this team. It's the epitome of being a captain. But I think that move shows that they really want to solidify the midfield. They don't want to give up anything simply, so she can hold that spot, but also still dictate things and change the point of attack.
That's the 7th goal for Fort Lauderdale, scored in the final 10 minutes of a match this season. It's number 33 on the year. They're right smack dab in the middle of the 8 teams in USL Super League in goals scored. But they have a flair for the dramatic. They have another one in them. And here comes Gordon, but the flag was up for offside, and thankfully for DC.
And I know I may not need this, probably shouldn't say this, but I like that Gordon finishes that, because if you're her coach, she's a front runner. You want to see those things hit the back of the net, and it's a great run, but DC Power just steps at the last minute to hold her offside.
Allen stepped up. McCain now on it. Race is on. Will Aquino get there first? Yes, and puts it out for a throw.
But the recognition from McCain to know that when Fitch is high, continue to play that space in behind. Now her being in that holding mid role, she's noticing that and starting to really pull the strings in midfield.
Allen, the cross. It comes down. It's Shania Gordon. Her shot blocked. She's right back on it. Shania Gordon just sends it wide. Gordon with 2 great chances.
And this is a great ball from the left back. Allen gets it across, not read well by Conte. Gordon takes the first opportunity. Conte does recover well and just trying to find that back post. She's falling backwards as she hits it, but you can tell that goal has really brought some life back into this Fort Lauderdale United attack, and they are not just going to sit back and only settle for a point.
Giving away Balcom, but they get a foul with the whistle late. Much to the chagrin of Fort Lauderdale, but they got to get back focused. Trying to go over the top to Spring Gurley. She'll run out of room, and it's out for a goal kick. Mernon allows that to come for Aquino. Final moments of regulation. Trying to go over the top for McNeil again. Fung. McNeil battling with Fitch. McNeil has the goal. She wins that battle. No whistle comes. Fitch wanted one. The cross. Headed away. Allen keeps it alive for McNeil. And the flag was up for offside.
Well, I think Fort Lauderdale has finally recognized that direct ball is causing problems for DC. Brooks is now starting to play that ball initially, and it's just the effort of McNeil, of Balcom, of getting it behind. That's the sense of urgency that they've been rewarded for, and they continue to be rewarded for.
Keno will get rid of it. Kane went down, whistle blows. Danielle Chesky, shrug of the shoulder. We're hearing about 4 minutes of stoppage time. So still plenty for either side to deposit the winner. But for now, Fort Lauderdale entered the second half down 1-0 on the goal by Abera late in the first half. And then late in the second half, it's McNeil with her first of the year in the 83rd. That has leveled the score. Martin flicks it in the air. Gorley. Just to show you how even this game has been, possession still right at 50-50. Malcolm couldn't get there.
When you mention Fort Lauderdale continuing to push, they certainly are, but this is something they have to be aware of is Gorley. She is very good in counterattacking transition, so they want to still stay organized in their arrest defense behind the ball. That falls on the shoulders of Ansbro and Brooks in the back to make sure they know where Gorley is at all times.
Ansbro. Gorley. Trying to lay it ahead. Played for Morshea. We're in stoppage time. McNeil, who has the goal, couldn't keep that one in. Malcolm against her former team. Comes for Fung. Malcolm wanted it back. Good ball for McNeil, but Fitch gets there first. And that's out for a goal kick. But no real protest there from McNeil.
No, usually you can tell by the reaction of the player to a degree, but I like that from Fung, trying to play her into that little space, little slip ball, but well defended by Fitch.
Fung trying to move it forward. Mernon clears it away. McCain for McNeil, who settles it down. And again, the flag was up for offside.
And that's incredibly frustrating if you're Fort Lauderdale United, just because you can see the whole line across the field, but it speaks to them trying to be right on the edge, trying to get in behind, play a little bit more direct.
Fong in tight quarters. She gets sent down. There's the foul. Brooks. Well done by Gorley. About a minute to go. Fitch. Good job by McCain. They get a late whistle again for a foul. This is a DC team that we know coming in was going to play Fort Lauderdale tough. It's what they've done in this second half. Every game decided by a goal. Won 2 of the last 3. Fung trying to flick it for Balcom. McCain on it. McCain. Gordon. Shania Gordon tried to fit it through to Kamani, but couldn't.
And I think DC has looked incredibly organized, but they've also built really well. They seem to understand their system very well so far.
Gorley, oh, Ansbro, what a play. And there is the final whistle from Danielle Chesky. A hard-fought point away from home for Fort Lauderdale. They trailed 1-0 all the way until the 83rd minute when McNeil leveled the score. and a massive point for Fort Lauderdale to take back home before these final 2 matches.
It is, especially when you see that they're on the road as well. Not something we necessarily talked about, but going on the road, getting a point from being a goal down, I think you have to be happy with that. It's one of those ties that can feel more like a win when you do it in that kind of context. And for DC, I think it's a good performance from them. They played incredibly well in this game on both sides of the ball.
Absolutely, and we'll wrap things up for you from Audi Field in just a moment. 1-1 is your final. Fort Lauderdale earns the road draw. DC finishes their home slate with this result here tonight. Back with more after this. Welcome back to Audi Field full-time. DC and Fort Lauderdale play to a 1-1 draw. Josh Appel, Casey White with you, and now joined by the goal scorer for Fort Lauderdale, Sabrina McNeil. Sabrina, you get your first of the season. Comes at a huge time for your group. You earned the big point on the road. How massive was this result for you guys as you push for the playoffs?
It was a good result. We've been itching for goals, and I was excited to get forward and get my opportunity this game.
Well, your goal was a great one. Take us through it. Take us through everything you felt in that moment and how big that was for you.
Yeah, I was just trying to play off of the momentum, and I got a good ball from Cozy, our goalie. And honestly, when defenders have their back to goal, it's very vulnerable. I know that as a left back myself. So I was itching behind her and got the opportunity and just placed it around the goalie. So I'm happy about that.
Sabrina, 2 games left in the regular season, 2 points back of the final playoff spot. You've got Spokane, you've got Dallas coming up. How can you ride the momentum of the success of this road trip with Lexington and now DC heading into the final 2 matches?
Yeah, it was a long road trip, and I think it's just about recuperating and, again, capitalizing on our chances. I think we're on a good roll right now, but we're not content with these types of results. We want to continue to put away all of our chances, and we're just going to keep on pushing forward and keep raising the standards so that we can, again, capitalize and make these games more in our favor.
Sabrina McNeil, thank you so much for your time. Congrats on the goal.
Thank you.
And good luck the rest of the way this season.
Thank you.
That's Sabrina McNeil for Fort Lauderdale as we take a look at our full-time highlights. DC got the scoring started late in the first half.
And they were operating in those wide spaces very well in combination. Les plays this ball across. Morshea not able to get it out of danger, and it's Ibarra that has the finishing touch off the left foot, just puts it into the open net, takes that late first half lead for DC Power into halftime. But Fort Lauderdale United would continue to try to find an equalizer. Sabrina McNeil would get this shot, and perhaps foreshadowing of things to come for her off that chest down from Addie McCain.
Yeah, fitting that McNeil had a couple of chances. This was a big one for DC that almost salted it away. Gianna Gurley against her former team.
Gurley came in the second half, and this was her best opportunity, playing in combination with Kurosaki. A good touch from Kurosaki right there. Not able to get it across frame was Gurley, but a handful in the second half. And then in the 83rd minute, this was the moment right here from Morshea over the top, turns the back of Mernon, and it's McNeil on her second shot of the game being able to put this one in the back of the net.
What a time for McNeil's first of the season. An unlikely source, but certainly a deserved goal for her as we take a look at the full-time stats. Shots even, 3 on target though for Fort Lauderdale to just 1 for DC. Possession about even the operative word. That's what this match felt like.
Similar to the first half, it was a bit of back and forth, so perhaps the 1-1 draw gives it what exactly it should have been with those shots as well, 12-11. You see it on both sides for sure from these teams.
So we've been talking about it throughout the entire night. The up-to-the-minute standings in Super League. Fort Lauderdale jumps Brooklyn, now 2 points back of Dallas. Dallas and Fort Lauderdale will go head-to-head this Saturday in a hugely important game for both sides.
3 points separating those 4 spots. If you're Fort Lauderdale United and you just see going up that 1 spot, that's certainly something you're ecstatic about. You just want to continue to try to push forward and continue to climb those standings here late.
Well, that will do it for us from Audi Field in Washington, D.C. Another hard-fought match by the home side, DC Power. They close out their home schedule with a 1-1 draw against Fort Lauderdale, who continues to push for the postseason. For Casey White and our entire USL Super League on Peacock crew, this is Josh Appel saying so long from Audi Field. Once again, your final score, DC 1, Fort Lauderdale United 1. Thanks so much for being with us, and we'll talk to you next time.